but all the different folks in DC, the different folks in Baltimore, the different folks in Maryland, different folks in Virginia. I feel that the DMV has this like wonderful space of creatives and wonderful directory of creatives that come together and sort of create this Voltron like figure to create narratives, to create documentaries, to create commercials. And I feel like the collaborators are the ones that really, make these things possible.
What's up, everyone? How close should a camera get to feel honest and not staged? Our guest, Othello Banaci, builds trust by design. He runs calm, peaceful sets, takes a 5-minute breath to reset, and even cues a project theme song to set the tone. He calls his DP identity human. He takes away from the real-life experiences he has, and sometimes has to blend it into the craft of working with the director. Whether he's experimenting on the feature film Sun Ra Do the Impossible, or stacking 3 cameras to catch the real-time truth in the short film 38 at the Garden. His interview playbook favors connection first. Think an eye direct or eye-to-eye conversation between director and interviewee, and then craft, distance, light, and time, all in service of the story. When the brief turns scholastic, like Yale's slavery research project, he raises the bar to meet it, organizing, pre-interviewing, and executing with an ethic of excellence. So we had to talk to him. Produced by Allegory Productions, and we'll name this agency later, this is the opening scene with Cam Lawson and Othello Banaci.
What is it like with you on set? Help me out, at least in the embodiment of you, like taking on the DP role.
I like to have fun on set, but my sets are like very calm. Like peace is important, and like having good energy and having good vibes are important. At the same time, you need to do your job.
Right.
Right. So it's like we're here to do our job, but we can also have a good time because the experience of the job, to me, is just as important as the job.
For sure. The finished product, you could tell like when people actually enjoyed what they created, or like they just did it just for the sake of like, we need to put a camera here, we need to put a light here, we need to record this story and then get it to post. Like I feel like I can tell like when people enjoyed that experience of capturing that story and really building out that room. But for you, what's the practical, when you say you could have peace or generate peace or have fun on set, is that like we talking about music on set, you dance and shake for about 5 minutes between, you have a still moment before? What does that look like for you?
So typically depending on the set, I get away and I meditate for like 5 to 10 minutes, right? That's my like peace. Before I start, I'll go and like meditate somewhere and like do my deep breathing and like be at peace. I do have music on.
Okay.
And depending on the project, we have a track for that project, right? So like for Sun Ra, it was Free Mind by Thames.
Okay.
So when the day started, that song was on.
Every day or?
Every day.
Okay, so that's just the theme song you have for projects now.
Every day. I don't do it all the time, right? But like that song to me at that moment was so powerful that I was like, yo, this is it. This is my soundtrack. So like this became our soundtrack. And people on set were like, come on, fam.
Really?
Listening to this again? And mind you, like, I discovered the song like 2 years later. Like I just discovered the song last year.
Oh, so people are like, why are you just getting hip to this?
So I'm listening to it, right? But people are like,
that was on like 2 years ago rap on
I'm
Spotify.
Like, nah, this is
what are we
me.
talking
This is
about?
me now. I'm on my own timeline. So, yeah.
That's your identity.
Yeah, you got to walk your own path. Right? Yeah. So like, I can get influenced by certain things, but I like certain things very specific.
You mentioned theme song. You mentioned things being a certain specific way, even your peace and your meditation. You mentioned identity. We were just talking about Wes Anderson. Help me understand your identity as, I'm a director of photography, but I know you do directing, producing, photography, like the roles and many hats that you wear run the gambit. But from a director of photography standpoint, what's your identity? What would you describe it as?
Human. I would identify it as human. I feel like I have a lot of gaps, but then I have a clear direction, right? Like you look at a human being, you can tell they have eyes, you can tell they have a mouth, a nose, right? But each person is different. each person is unique. Like my hair is different than your hair, my skin texture is different than your skin texture.
Mhm.
Your you know, you like different foods than I like, right? So like I can blend, but then I can be an outlier. And I feel like that's, I think, my unique point, my unique viewpoint when it comes to cinematography. Because I can, you know, I can fit in this box, I can do this thing, but also I can just be my own, you know, when the project calls for it.
How often have you worked on those projects where it allows you to be your own as opposed to, you talk about blending, so how often you have to actually blend?
I'm like 70-30. 70 my own, 30 blend.
That's great.
Because like I used to have this false identity that if I have a certain camera, I'm gonna get hired, right? Throughout my career, no one cares about what I shoot on. Like like if I show up on set with a Canon T3i, they're like, all right, let's just, what's up? Now, that 30% is someone saying, we need you to shoot on this thing,
Yeah.
and we need you to do it this way, right? But, you know, I'm sure we're going to get into this, but for Sun Ra, that was like, I need you to just like go crazy. And I've never had a director just like, obviously she doesn't talk like that.
I was gonna say that was the
Like,
conversation. She said, "We want you to go crazy."
The conversation was not, I want you to go crazy, right? But my interpretation, she was like, I need, like, this film and this artist is very different, right? Sun Ra is a visionary, Afrofuturism. He is a unique soul. So the images need to be different.
Yeah.
This is not your traditional documentary.
It's a different
right?
human.
Different human. And I need you to be that person that can fit in a lot of different spaces on this project.
How did that show up stylistically? I mean, obviously, futuristically, like, is it a lighting decision? Is it a camera angle?
Everything.
Talk me through it.
I think it's the first time that a director just like threw out the Legos and was like, make something. Right. And like, I don't think it was, obviously it didn't look like that, but just to put in perspective, we shot interviews on Kaleidoscope. We shot interviews on Halo. We shot a bunch of different colors. We did a bunch of probe. We did a lot of cut scenes. Now, the final, not a lot of that stuff got left on the cutting board, but it was cool, right? Like, you know, we still have the behind the scenes for some of that stuff. We still have some of those pictures and some of those moments. My boy, Daniel St. Hours, who's from Baltimore, lives in New York now, but he was on that shoot with me too. And we just had a blast. Like, we just like, you know, I'm somebody that likes to run a bunch of cameras for docs. And I
say a bunch. We talking like 6 set up everywhere?
Not
or
6.
Like, okay.
I would love to do 4.
Okay.
I think on this one we did 3. Every now and then I'll try to sneak cameras on, but like producers know, so they'll be like, "How many cameras we shooting on today?" So, I think we kept it to 3 because Christine does like 3-hour-long interviews. So like, you run out of card space
very quickly.
Very quickly.
Yeah. And
we're doing like 2-3 hours and then one like 2 hour. So Christine, I did lynching postcards with.
Okay.
First. So that's how I got connected with her.
Yeah.
During COVID. We shot that during COVID.
So Sun Ra, and just the conversation with the director, you wanting to have 3 or 4 cameras sometimes. Can you talk to me about a moment where like you wanted to build the Legos this way and your director was like, I don't think this is the best direction?
Well, my job is to support her.
Okay.
Her vision, right? So no matter what happens, what she is looking for is what I'm here to do. Right. Now, every now and then, I might say, hey, I really like this, right? And it may or may not suit the story. And then she might have to like bring me back in and rein me back in and be like, hey, like, this is what I'm seeing. Let's kind of lean towards this, right? So I want to say maybe I can only remember one instance where I was like going way too crazy on an interview, and like one of the cameras were like super profile, and it just was that far. It was that different. Now, from a framing standpoint, what we had there, it was very difficult to put the camera in a traditional space because of like things we had in the background. So this was my opening, but from a story standpoint and like how she wanted it to flow, like
It worked.
like I was here, I should have been here, right? The camera was like here, right? And then she, you know, we had that conversation, and she was like, "Hey, I think, you know, we should try to have this rule." And we just created a rule, and we live with that rule. And I feel like we may have broken it one other time when we needed it to, but for the most part, you know, I'm there to support what she's doing, and if I see something that she doesn't, then I'm going to communicate that to her, and if she sees something that I don't, she's going to communicate that to me.
Bigger than just like the lint on someone's like shoulders.
Yeah.
Right?
But that conversation doesn't really happen. Like, for example, like I'm very anal, so like I might like take a note during set, or our producer Talia, like that's like, you know, you want to say Beavis and Butthead, like during on set, me and Talia are like this, like, yo, like, do you see this? Oh, this is good. Okay, cool. Cause like she's like, Christine is so into story that we don't want to interrupt her.
Yeah,
like you're not gonna you're not gonna knock on Einstein's door and be like, I know you're inventing the light bulb, but she was untied.
Right.
Like, so yeah.
With Sunrise, you said it. I mean, here's your Legos, have fun with it. It seems like a little bit different approach than, as you said, traditionally the different projects just in general that you might work on. What was the prep for? Like, I'm interested in just your habits and what you do in between these projects, of how you actually practice. How do you prepare for a Sunrise, but then you're also, and not necessarily in the same timeline, but like thinking about doing something for 38th Garden and doing lynching postcard. Like there's a variety of different projects, Yale project as well, that you're doing, still human-centered. But the way you approach it, the way you tell it, might be different. So talk to me a little bit about your deliberate ways that you practice.
Got it. So I used to play college basketball.
Okay.
Basketball used to be my life. Ball was life.
Okay.
Everything. Like.
Always.
So that idea is the foundation of my, you know, my work. So what do I do in the off season? My left wasn't strong. I work on my left, work on my jump shot, work on my conditioning. So in between projects, I have a mental note while I'm shooting, but during these projects, I'm noting, okay, what am I lacking, right? Like I'm not utilizing different modifiers. So I might go in the studio and just play with modifiers. I'm not utilizing shaping light correctly. So I'm in the studio and I'm playing with light, or I'm playing with filters or different cameras, different aspect ratios. I give myself time limits, or I give myself very difficult, like a difficult corporate job where it's like just me and I have to light it and I need to shoot it and I need to edit it and I need to do sound. Like I will take on something like that because I need to figure out where my spirit breaks, where my talent breaks, where my communications break. Like what are the things that I lack that I will not see it for myself? Somebody has to see it, you know, on the outside. So I spend a lot of time training, you know, like whether it's like in my crib or researching, figuring out ways that I'm not doing something right? Because like, I know for a fact, like I understand my job, but there's so many things that I don't know, and there's so many things I can get better at. So I spend a lot of time just like doing that.
In the gym, shooting.
In the gym, bro. I'm like, when I was in college, like I rode the bench in college, right? But
I was there too.
You know, right? You understand.
Yeah.
So
you still had to show up for practices, even if you wanted to go to the game. Like you still had to do like all the workouts. Like,
don't get me wrong. Like I suited up, I did all the things, right? But like, you know, I was, you know, when they call players out and starting at 5, I'm the guy at the end of the bench with all the handshakes, right? So I'm doing all the handshakes. I'm doing all the chants. I'm doing all the prayers. Like coach is looking at me. Oh, I need you to say something right now, right? So I'm in the gym. So after practice, like we had these dancers called the Code Red dancers. Like they're like, in the cheerleaders, they would be like practicing in the gym. I'm like wheeling out a shooting machine and like getting shots up and like doing drills like while they're on the other side like training, knowing I'm never gonna play. but it's like, what is it that I can do to become better, right? No one has to be looking, but I know I could have done better.
I love that philosophy. Let that sit for a little bit.
Yeah.
Then I'm sure being Ball is life. That's your life. 38 at the Garden must have been an amazing project just to be a part of, to be showing up as a DP and just in the weeds, to hearing the stories of like a Jeremy Lin story of someone who, like, again, no one's really watching and paying attention, but he's still showing up. And then when he does get that chance, I mean,
we are all Jeremy, dog. We are all Jeremy. And I think that's cool because that project has so many layers to it, and how the project even came about, like how I got involved in the project, was very interesting in itself. So there was this thing called the Apple Storymakers Festival in 2019, where they just brought a whole bunch of creators to open up the Apple Store. I somehow got a call, and now I'm in this project, and they're doing this commercial, and they're and I have to teach an Apple class. But the day of the commercial, I met this guy named Frank. Me and Frank are talking. We hit it off. He's like super cool, knows about all the sneakers, knows about culture, knows a lot about, politics. But he's just a very like cool guy, like a guy you would see on the street and just dap up. You know how you see someone, you're like, yo, I don't know you, but I feel like I know you.
I've only done that in events. I'm be honest with you, I don't think I would just walk in the streets of the city and just
I like to talk to people, so I'm that guy.
Fair. Yeah,
I'm that guy.
I need to learn.
I'm the person that just walks up to someone and be like, yo, like, I hope you're doing well. Like, I'm that guy. Anyway, so Frank, I mean, I like it. I like people, bro. Yeah. I like people. So Frank, I meet Frank. Frank's super tight. We hit it off. We just kept in touch. And then I do a personal project during the pandemic called American Negro. Okay. It touched Frank. Frank really liked it. And he was like, yo, like, we got to do something like this for a different project. So him and I were going to do this Chinatown project. And we walked around Chinatown, we scouted, we did some other things. And then, we didn't really get legs on it, but he had this idea of doing this like Linsanity project, but he was like, I want to do it different. I want to do it different. So I randomly get a call from this dude named Samir Hernandez. Samir's like, yo, like, you're the guy, we want to do this project. So we're talking and we're just like spitting out ideas. And like, at the time, Malice of the Palace had came out. At the time, I think it was Queen of Basketball had came out. And then there was a show, there was a documentary on Netflix. I want to say it was called Losers. I think that's what it was. But he wanted this first person, sort of thing. Yeah. This first person way of telling the story. So I was like, yo, we got to use the iDirect. He's like, yo, what is iDirect?
I'm asking the same question right now.
I'm about to get you hit. So iDirect is like a prism. So if we're doing an interview on iDirect, you're not seeing the camera. My face, I'm sitting here. The mirror projects my face on top of the camera. Okay. And you're seeing me.
So I'm looking technically into the lens.
But we're having a conversation. Exactly. But we're having a conversation. And you're seeing my face over the lens. Right? So the iDirect not only makes you feel more at ease, but you're having a conversation, right? If you're just looking down the lens, you know what you're going to do?
Right. Look away, because it's weird.
You're going to do
this.
Like
this black barrel.
Yeah, you're going to be like, your eye twitches, and like when I'm the guy on the other side and someone eye goes from here to even your ear, I'm like, yo, I moved, do it over, So the iDirect was king, everything. Right? And we had this idea of doing, the initial idea, we're going to do all these cut scenes, right? And I was like, yo, these cut scenes are going to be crazy. Because we did a whole bunch of research on Spike Lee and Mars Blackman, right? So we had all these locations in New York. I had this idea about this bodega thing. So we're going to have a guy in a bodega and he's like, yo, Jeremy Lin, da-da-da-da. We're going to push in. Then there's going to be an apartment in New York. And then we're going to be, like, we had all these crazy scenes. And it was just like this, like, very unique space where you're in on the ground, right? Because it wasn't like HBO was a part of the project initially, right? Like,
sold after.
It's sold after. Like,
This is you all just kind of like
This is
you know what
like
you
this
want
is
to
Frank's
create,
baby,
right? And then just
Frank,
like just going out here.
Samir, Trayvon, like they're doing a thing, and then they, you know, they brought me on. Like it was such a beautiful thing.
It was a fun project to watch.
Yo, it was a fun project to make,
I'm sure.
and like, yeah, it was
Especially now seeing like the bodega shot. I feel like you all did like get like almost like
we did
street
that.
pops.
We did
almost,
that.
yeah, and
We
it
did
felt
that
very
with
real,
like
very.
yeah, when we had the guy in front of Madison Square Gardens,
Mhm.
which again, Frank was the first like do whatever you want. He's like story first. So him and Christine, to me, I love working with them because they're story first. Like if I like the frame, I like the frame, but like you kind of put your own seasoning in it. Like we're making chicken, but what type of chicken
Yeah.
you get to decide, right? I'm like, yo, can I shoot an interview on the 12 mil? He was like, sure. Like, how many directors would say shoot an interview? Those interviews outside are all 12 mil. Yeah, that's a 12 mil.
Now I'm envisioning the shot out. Yeah,
Fam, there's
it
no
is very wide, but
way
12 mil is very.
that
I would think
if
for
you
that
stand
one.
where I stood in front of Madison Square Gardens, there's
Yeah.
no way you're
Get the
seeing
whole
Madison
thing.
Square here and you're seeing the Empire State Building here. No possible way. 12
Unless you
mil,
have a
bro.
12.
12 mil, bro. Hopped out of a van, easy rig, 12 mil. Let's go. Like,
So it's very run and gun almost. Like there's some
no,
structure to it. but okay.
for that specific, for those like for that specific one, like
Yeah.
Madison Square Garden, you can get a permit, but you can't just be out there. I don't even think
Sticks.
we had a permit for sticks. I think we had a permit for like handheld.
Mm.
So that's why it was easy rig. Because I don't even do easy rig. It hurts my back. But that moment I did easy rig.
You have a favorite outside of that? A favorite setup from that short?
I have two.
Okay.
One didn't make the cut, so I can't. It's like it was dope. We shot at this gym and it like looked beautiful, but it didn't, like, the interview didn't make the cut. But the second one, Jenny Yang's crib, right?
Mm-hmm.
This beautiful office, tons of books everywhere, and it was such a unique experience because we got to be in her space, her home, and then we got to craft and build something fresh from this, office she had. So we had to rearrange the whole room. And usually before then, when I would go into a space, I would try to do a little bit, but I wouldn't really try to like break down someone's room. Like we broke down her room. Like tables, her desks, we put things outside. We did a lot. And I just remember her telling the story and just being so moved by it. But a close second, and maybe the first, is Lisa Ling. Like her joint was just like, her living room had so much depth. Her, just like the experience, we had already experienced the whole film.
Mm-hmm.
So like the language was already embedded in my head. Whereas Jenny Yang, like that was the first week we filmed. And that's still one of my favorite interviews.
Going into like setup just a little bit, not even for that, but I just thought how you talked about the 3 to 4 different camera setups you usually try to work with. Do you have preferences, favorites that you stick with? Or obviously it could depend on story, but like if you were coming into this room right now, it's like, okay, I already know 3 I want to test. I want to try to work with.
If I'm coming into this room, yeah, for sure. The first thing I do when I come into a space is I see what the natural light does first. I turn everything off. I look at the natural light. Then I close the natural light and I figure out what these lights, practicals, whatever you want to call them. And then I do both. And then I try to figure out, all right, what are the temperatures here? And what are the temperatures here, right? Are these fluorescents? Can I swap these out? I love these ceilings because you can do what you did here, these like little scissor joints. And that's super clutch. So I would, I look at all of that. And then I hate flicker. So I'm testing flicker somehow, some way, right? Because there's levels of flicker, right? There's like flicker that's in your face. There's like low grade flicker, and there's like flicker that's like we can't control that, right? Low grade flicker doesn't do this. It does this.
With the moving lines.
But it's like it takes maybe like 30 seconds for it to pass, right? So like you're not gonna see it with your eye. So I have to do a clip and like fast forward it real quick and look at the lights and be like, oh yeah, that's a flicker. Right. So it's like I'm looking at those things. And then I'm figuring, all right, what depth? Like if I'm, do we want to shoot in this direction? I don't want to shoot this close to the window, but these practicals are tight, so then I can use this. Depending on, you know, what we're shooting, am I utilizing this corner? This corner gives us depth, but is there things there? I love these red curtains we have here. I love the ability to control light. So there's all these like little things I'm gonna do when I come into the room. But what comes out my mouth is usually like, oh, this is nice. But like that's what like I'm calculating all these things, right?
Yeah.
And then I'm just like, that's what's up. So it's always like very calm and collective. But like I could be running marathons and backflips or like the little monkey doing this. But on the surface, I'm just like, that's what's up. We're gonna make this work.
Is that all from the practice that you've done? Is that a testament to the practice that you do possibly in your studio? As you said, this in between deliberate and getting shots up in the gym, you're able to walk on a set and it could still be chaos. But like for you, it's just,
Yeah.
you have a lot going on, but it's not shown on the surface.
Sometimes. There's a few people that I've worked with over the past. I'm gonna date this, but back when I shot weddings.
Okay.
Right, there was I used to work for this dude, and it was like very big weddings, right? We have like 11 people doing all these like, they'd have ice sculptures and doing this and doing that. And then I want to say like 4 or 5 years later, there was this cat, Eli Turner, right? And same type of weddings, like 2 people. He was just like, yeah, we're just gonna get it done. Just gonna get it done. And I always stood in my mind, I'm like, yo, like, a calm mind is a powerful mind, right? So like, whatever is happening, what matters first is my peace, and then I can get the job done. So if someone's stressing me out on set, I'm like, I don't do stress. So like, let me take a second to get this done, and then we'll get this. Because I got producers always like, yo, we're running out of time. And like, I literally look at them, and I'm like, that is great. How much time do I have? Oh, you have 30 minutes, right? I'm not going to say it because she's going to pop off. I'm going to say, hey, blase, on the phone. Give me a timer for 5 minutes, right? 5 minutes to set this specific thing. Mm-hmm. Timer goes off. Now I need to go to this. Set me a timer for 3 minutes. 3-minute timer, I need to do this thing. Set me a timer for 5 minutes. 5-minute timer, I need to do this. Now I'm at 13 minutes. I got 20 minutes. I got 7 minutes to get my shot, right? Then I'm like, all right, set me a timer for 2 minutes. 2 minutes is just saying, get all the kinks out, do a quick test, make sure it works, right? Then now I have, like 4 or 5 minutes, and then that's the time I got to shoot. But if I compartmentalize it like that, I'm not looking at this mountain and I'm saying, oh man, I gotta climb this mountain. Like, no, you gotta get to this point at this time, this point at this time, that's this point here at that time.
Did you anticipate this role as a DP, working in it, but then also just like how technical that you have become with it? Like, did you anticipate that might actually be needed on just different sets?
No, I think initially I wanted to be a director, and that actually initially I wanted to be an on-set photographer.
Okay.
I thought the director of photography was the behind, like the
unit
stills guy. That's what I thought it was. It's like, I would be so cool. And then I started shooting more, and I was like, oh, this is interesting. And then I started working with folks that knew what they were doing. And I was like, I don't know anything. Like, this is a problem. But it was fun, right? So then I thought about it. If you consider your job, let's say, obviously, the hierarchy is not going to be the same from a health perspective, but a surgeon and a DP, right? Mm-hmm. If I botch a surgery consistently, that's a problem, right? If I botch an interview consistently, that's a problem, right? So if these people have the technical, well, let me not say doctor's like super extreme. Let's say like a janitor, right? And we're cooking chicken and I don't clean the chicken. That's going to expose people to things that are not healthy for you, right? As a DP, if I'm not doing my job,
probably a chef.
Huh?
You said a janitor cooking the chicken. I was like, probably.
Cleaning the chicken.
Okay.
Cleaning the chicken, like they had already cooked.
Got you.
They're supposed to be cleaned.
Got you.
Yeah. A janitor cooking the
I was concerned. No, I was like, I don't know.
A janitor cooking the chicken, yo, that's crazy. You know, basically, I had to look at the job. It's more than just making images, right? So if you look at it from that perspective, like what you're doing means a lot more than you think it is. I'm not just taking the camera, pointing the camera, and putting something online and saying I'm doing something great. No, I'm spending a lot of time to craft something, to build a story, to do something that's worth something, and then I'm delivering that, right? I'm not throwing it in the microwave and just like handing it out. I'm marinating it, I'm marinating it, I'm putting it on the grill, I'm plating it, I'm making sure I got the right sides, like I'm making sure the ambiance is good, I'm making sure, we got the right drinks, I'm making sure, the house is clean before people come over, and then I'm inviting people into the space and saying like, I hope you like it. And if they don't like it, that's great, because then I get to figure out what's wrong. If they like it, it's good, but it's also bad, because they're not going to tell you what's wrong.
So they might have something else wrong, but they just don't want to say it. They'll just accept what it is.
Well, I don't think it's that. I think it's easier for someone to be critical if they don't like something. It's harder to be critical if you do like something. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I also am curious what would make someone...
All right, for example...
Like I'm a fan of my car.
All right.
Why would I be critical of the car?
So you like 38 The Garden, right?
Okay, yes.
There's certain scenes of that I might not particularly like, because I know that I made a mistake or that we made a mistake.
Sure, but that's like you as the craftsman and the technician and like the builder of it. But for me as an audience, like if I don't have an issue with it,
right,
I'm good of it. I'm like, from what I see, from whatever my standard might be, like I am good. Now you might have
that's
a
what I'm
completely
saying.
different standard.
But that's what I just said.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So like you like it, right?
Right.
So you're not gonna look at the holes. But if you didn't like it, you're going to look at the holes.
I see.
I had the conversation, put it this way, easy, Stranger Things, right?
Mm-hmm.
I had a colleague who was just going off about the writing. Oh, the writing, I don't like the writing. I don't like the season. I don't like this. I don't like this. I don't like this, right? Now, they weren't saying that about other seasons or other seasons, because they may have loved those seasons. But because the last season they weren't like crazy about, it was easier for them to see the holes, right? So it's not an issue either way, but I learn a lot more from my mistakes, and I'm able to take in a lot more from my mistakes, and that's what I appreciate. Now, when people love things, obviously I love it, but like when they don't like something, it always ignites something in me. So I'm like, oh, okay, what do we need to learn? Because that's when I can be a student. That's when I can sit down and say, oh, this wasn't good. Like put something on Facebook, in a Facebook group, and watch those people go to town. And like, that was joy to me. Somebody was like, I posted something I was proud of. Somebody was like, green, green, green. And then a year later, like after knowing more, I went back and I was like, yo, that is super green. And I re-edited it because I saw how green the skin was, but I couldn't see it then.
Yeah.
Right. But them saying that allowed me to see what I'm missing, right? Whereas no one else said that. They said, oh, I like it, it's nice. But no one else was like, yo, like right here is a little green. This dude on Facebook who didn't care for it did. And that was like, this is like a cheat code to like get some critique, because good critique is good, or any critique is good. But good critique is good. But like, I like having those moments where someone gives me feedback, whether it's like great feedback or average feedback, because it's all feedback. And being able to have that feedback is how we learn. In school, you do a test, you get a grade, you go back, you do another test, you go back, you do another test. You don't get those opportunities like that. So every one of those opportunities is important. That's why I said all of it's good, because you don't get it all the time.
Especially in this age, right?
Yeah,
you say you're out of school, so it's like you don't really have like someone checking you every single time you show up for a test or a quiz or the big moment.
Exactly. I can go a whole year and no one can say anything. But I can like reach out to people, or I could put it in certain spaces where I know someone's going to be critical, and they're going to be like, you know, this is what I think. In certain situations, I don't necessarily, you know, some of those critiques don't apply to me. It might apply to someone's uh, sensibilities or their preferences, but certain things do apply to me. Like that green, like that joint was green. When I say it was green, I was like, and this was my first time shooting on a red, so I didn't know like a lot of the things, but somebody who was that seasoned, who was ready to troll, was like my golden ticket to learning more about seeing those intricacies, those little, tiny things that you wouldn't really realize when you like something.
So some trolls are good.
Some trolls are great.
Yeah.
It's not like, you got to filter it, because eventually, you get a lot, it's a problem. But like when people are saying things that make sense, it's like, oh, interesting. But if you're a guy that uses 6 lights on all your sets and I use 3 lights, your critique might be like, oh, I wish I had more light. Then it's like, it's not my identity. Yeah, it's not my thing.
It's a little
so
different.
Like that part, I'm like, okay.
Got you. But if it's green, then it's...
Yo, it was green, man. And like, I could not see it. That's why, like, this whole little caveat is important, because I just didn't see it at all. And then when my eyes were clear and I had learned more and I was able to see better, I was like, oh, I wasn't going to write back, you're right, bro, thank you. But, I'm like, okay, he was on to something, and he had no connection to this project.
Well, hopefully
he didn't care about it.
Your journey from then.
No,
maybe just randomly seeing another Facebook post. Maybe.
Doubt it. This was just like, I don't even know if I posted a video. I posted screenshots.
Okay.
Like, I'm not gonna expect someone to follow the journey from a Facebook post.
But if you put it in the same Facebook group, or like if they randomly saw it, so it's like however they interacted with it before, you follow up. Again, not saying like thanks for letting me know it's green, not reposting the photo, but more so just like, oh, this is another project, and he's like, oh, this is not green. At least even if he didn't comment, he at least is like, oh, I told that dude was green. Like he might feel something. I'm not really sure.
Say, yo,
ignore him.
This is not green. No, I mean, maybe, right? But I think, those groups have value, but to expect someone to track with your work is very difficult to expect that, out of a group. I love the groups for knowledge, because it's a bunch of people that just throw, mistakes and successes and different ways of doing things. So it's like a very interesting toolbox,
I love it. You had mentioned before you got into like the whole DP role, it was an on-set photographer, but also it was a directing position that you really envisioned. I believe you had a chance to actually sit in a director's chair on the Yale research project, slavery project. Were you DP and director in that, or just sat in the director?
Director only.
How we understand like that shift, that pivot, and really getting the opportunity to sit in the director's chair of that project. It's such a deep, like profound work at that point, and the history that really kind of brought to light.
Yeah, so at the time, I primarily directed, and I started DPing.
Okay.
Right. So for my production company, I direct most of the stuff. But when people hire me out, they usually hire me out as a DP.
Got you.
And in this situation, it's through my wife that we got the project. But
shout out the wives.
I mean, she's the best. She's the best. I mean, I just know she's the best.
That's cool. Mine is too, but I mean,
right.
We're not.
It's like, you know what I'm saying? I don't need to.
It's cool.
Yeah. You got it.
We're aware.
So, so the hardest part about a project like this, especially for me at the time, this is Yale. These are all scholars who wrote the book on the subject matter that you are talking about. David Blight wrote, like, all these excerpts that we're doing were from David Blight's book. And I was still in school. I went back to like get my degree. So I'm like getting my degree, reading these stories, reading this book, and trying to get the whole history of Yale, of New Haven, of the slavery, the um the oppression, and there's a lot. It's not like and what's interesting about Yale is they have so many archives, right? So like for them to dig that out was just monumental.
Yeah.
So they had reached out to us. We had to pitch. We had some conversations. It went through, and then we had to figure out what does our team look like. And I do things a little bit non-traditionally. I like to bring my people because, like I like my sets to be. I like peace.
Yeah.
I like, you know,
Gotta have the right people for this.
connection.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like having a space where we are like a basketball team going to play, whoever,
See, ball is life.
right? Ball is definitely life. So usually on these jobs when they come into DC, they bring in their DP, they bring in their main folks and they hire locally, right? We just brought everyone up.
Mm-hmm.
We found a way to just get everyone to New Haven. And initially I had a few people that I wanted to DP this, and one of them was Alexis Chinnery. She actually DP'd that project for us, um, and it was just such a beautiful experience because she works a little bit differently than I do, as everyone does. So her and I just came together and we just started cooking. We went to the studio. We did like a pre setup one night where we just sort of mapped out a bunch of different setups. Um, and then we went to New Haven. We scouted. We hung out. We learned. It was a ton of pre-interviews. Like the difference. Let me go back. The difference between like me DPing a project and me directing a project is the pre-production is a little bit more heavier, right? So I'm
Heavier on the directing side.
on the directing side.
Yeah.
So I'm spending a lot of time reading, doing pre-interviews, scripting. We did have a script writer, so we would like do these pre-interviews via Zoom. I want to say I did 30 pre-interviews. So it was a ton. Like I just did pre-interviews with scholars for like a month and a half.
Mm.
And I just like soaking a whole bunch of like knowledge. This information was dense. So let's say I'm at 70%, 80%, right? I have all the information, but I think I said one or two things incorrectly. In this situation, cool, you say something correctly. Like I say, janitor is cooking chicken, right? Janitor is cooking chicken. So, oh yeah, duh. In a scholarly sense, that doesn't cut it. We don't do mistakes,
Yeah.
right? So it's like I'm talking to the premier scholars in some of these spaces. And some people were a little bit more educational, like they would teach me stuff and they would walk through stuff. But certain interviews was very, hey, these are the things we need to hit. I need you to know everything about this. I need you to know everything about this. I need you to know everything about this. And I think that first one was really tight because it allowed me to see that it was 100% or nothing.
Yeah. I guess you're learning about this project as you go, as far as the information, like you know about it a little bit, but then also like you're diving deeper into it. When did you feel like you got to the point, from the director standpoint, let's go roll? Let's go from these pre-interviews, or let me back up. How did you go from I feel like I know enough to start having these pre-interviews, or I don't know enough and I need to go have these pre-interviews?
Oh, I didn't have a choice. Like we had to move.
Okay.
And we had a deadline. We had a deadline of December. And I think we started the project in like August/September.
Okay.
So we had to move. Usually I would want to spend a lot of time, doing this. And I had did a project like this previously with Smith College. So I'd already gone through this process of working with folks that knew a lot more than I did about the subject because they, are the premier person for that subject, right? I think because this is where I made the mistake. I went for what captivated me in terms of story, and I studied that first. But then when we had to do pre-interviews, folks' schedules sort of misaligned, right? So I think if I were to do this over again, I would start with the book and the excerpts, and then I would note down my findings or my questions from each section, right? And then I would go into pre-interviews. What I did was I'm thinking about, you know, videos 5 through 10, but we're doing video 2 tomorrow. Or not tomorrow, but like at the end of the
it's
week.
the closest one.
And like when I'm going through this process, my whole room looks like a crime scene. So like everything is printed out all over the room. So imagine these walls, like Yale like this. You know, this is for this, and then I have sticky notes and I'm writing stuff down, and I have my notebook and I'm writing stuff down. But that wasn't enough, right? I needed complete focus. Nothing else was important. Even school wasn't important. This was important. So basically, I had to after that first interview, I restructured my life, right? And I segmented my day that was like before 12, I can do school. After 12, like 12 to 8 was Yale. So 8 hours a day. And if I finished my work early, I would just add more Yale hours to it. So 8+ hours a day is all Yale. And it's just like, you know, this subject.
Did you feel prepared in doing that after you did that? Like as you sit into the chair, you were like the guru of everything in that moment?
Yes, and I also had an interviewer. So we worked with the president's office.
Okay.
And we had, Reen, Cynthia, and Jeff. Those are our 3 that we really connected with, and those are the ones that kind of did stuff. And Jeff is just this amazing man who just knows everything. And I got him to do the interviews for me so that I could just be critical and focus on how does it sound? Do we have the information we need? And then certain interviews I would do myself.
Okay.
Yeah. But like for the scholars, like Jeff might have certain things that certain questions he would ask or certain information historically that he would have, that he would know that I may not know. I would kind of empower him to do that. And we would give him the questions, we'd give him the notes, we would say, this is what we need, right? And then he would just look at me because they would be talking to him through the iDirect. Then I would be to the side with headphones on and my little notes.
Okay.
And then, you know, I'm that guy, so I'd be like, we need to do that again. We need another one for safety. And Jeff would be looking at me like, he'd have to explain to them like, hey, so, you know, he needs a bunch of takes. So for editing, we have this. Because I'd be like.
Do you feel like it made them uncomfortable? Interviewees, that is.
No, I mean, we'd always like build a rapport. And some of these people I was fanning over. So I'd be like, yo. So it was just it was an experience. It was like somebody took you into a time machine and then you came back and you're like, what is the world again? You know, like when we all left, we were sad. We were sad this project was over.
Heavy project.
You know what I mean? Like it's a heavy project and it mattered a lot more than we initially, like anytime you think something's important and you dive into it, it becomes way more important. Yeah. Right? And we didn't understand the depths of it. And when we got in, we were in. And the chemistry we had making that project, you know, it just felt like folks went into battle. Folks went into a game. Like you know, it was like the flu game or something. Like we're flying in from Maryland, or some people were driving up, like the gaffer and grip, they drove up. And, you know, we're scouting the day we get there. we're filming the next day, and it's just we're not like going there hanging out. Like we're just going we're in it, right? We're in it, and we're prepared, and everyone was prepared. And the thing about Yale is that, Yale is a constantly populated space. Like we're shooting in some places, and like people are everywhere. We have to find windows. We have to find, moments to do things when there's not students around. Like this is an active campus.
They didn't close rooms off.
They did, but like certain things were public. Like certain libraries were public.
Yeah.
But it was just a beautiful experience, a beautiful learning experience. I feel like every time I failed, it just became this like beautiful thing, because I look back and I'm like, oh, how did I needed that gear, and I didn't know I needed that gear, right? If you're shooting 80%, you think you're great, but if you know that you can do 95 sounds a lot better, right? Mm-hmm. And through those scholars who are constantly, looked at through a microscope, anything they say, and a lot of even on the back end, it's like, oh, this person said this, it's actually this, it's not correct, we can't use it, right? So there was a lot of things, historians having to check the work, and on the back end, on the front end, and that also allowed me to realize, okay, this is what I didn't understand initially, right? This is an institution that is very, very, very extremely high and extremely dedicated to knowledge, right? Knowledge is important. Having the right knowledge is important, right? So when you're going, if I say blue when it's really green, we're like, oh, that's fine. That doesn't work like that, because it's not true.
Yeah.
And people are going to follow that.
Yeah.
So that importance to knowledge, and I also have to, acknowledge Mike Moran, who is the guy at the gentleman at the Banaci Library who got us a ton of stuff. And he's like, amazing. He helped us out with so much stuff, man. And he took us on a tour. Hope, who was also there at the time. Like there's just so much excellence. And when you're around so much excellence, it reminds you of the value of the things that you're doing. And it reminds you of how much attention and detail you need. Yeah. Right? So it's like if you're on Jordan's team, like you're going to make that extra pass. You're going to run that extra sprint. You're going to do that. So working with Yale was like working with Jordan.
Yeah.
And being like, yo, I need to be lifting weights.
Go the extra mile.
I need to be going the extra mile. Yeah. That's the norm.
Yeah.
Going the extra mile was the norm. It's not like, okay, you go the extra mile. Like, that's what you're supposed to do.
Like, now that's expected.
No. You need to, that's how it was. So that level of excellence, just like, man, it ignited everyone. So
life-changing.
Man, by a month in, I'm excited for these weekly meetings. I'm excited for these critiques. I'm excited for this. Why? Because once we get these critiques, next week, we made it better. Next week, we do this. I get a call, or I'm having a conversation with someone, and they're like, hey, like, I don't think that this sounds right. I don't think that this is real, or I don't think that this is truthful because of how you laid this information out. Mm-hmm. It's not the truth. We need the truth. Truth is important, right? Truth, knowledge, excellence. Like, that is like, it's special, bro.
I love it.
It's special because it's just like, you see it, you hear about it. When you experience it, you're like, oh, okay, this is what we're doing.
Completely different.
Yeah.
Kind of like a final question for you.
Yeah.
Why is filmmaking important to you?
Storytelling is important to me. So filmmaking is my medium. Mm-hmm. I use photography. I can use audio. But the moving picture, to me, it touches your optical senses. It touches your hearing. It touches your spirit. It touches your heart. It touches so many different spaces for people that it becomes more than just storytelling, right? It's an elevated sense of story because you can listen to it and it sounds good. You can follow it and your mind can tell you what's what. But when you open your eyes, you see it. It just means so much more.
I love that answer. What's a question I didn't ask that I should have asked?
That's a very good question. Question you should have asked. Oh, you know what? There's collaborators.
Okay.
Because I feel like it's easy for me to say all these things, but like the collaborators is what makes the the stories actually happen, right? Like I have Aaron and Pierre have been like my main collaborators over the last year and some change, but all the different folks in DC, the different folks in Baltimore, the different folks in Maryland, the different folks in Virginia. I feel that the DMV has this like wonderful space of creatives and wonderful directory of creatives that come together and sort of create this Voltron like figure to create narratives, to create documentaries, to create commercials. And I feel like the collaborators are the ones that really, make these things possible. We're talking the Aarons, the Pierres, the Samsons,
You mentioned Alexis already.
Alexis. Oh yeah, of course, Alexis. I work with Nate Airy, who we call Luca. Nate Airy's Luca.
I'm sure once I see it, we're meeting again. It makes sense.
It's Jeff, who's Fitzgerald. He's a gaffer. I mean, there's so many people. Will, who ACs for me a ton. Camila, who does sound but also directs and does a whole bunch of other stuff like Travell. There's a bunch of folks that just like, it's almost like we trade roles on jobs, right? So this person could be directing this day. I could be DPing. Next time this person's DPing for me. Next time I could be opping for this person. Or next time I could be directing this person who has, this guy who we then all work for the next year. Like it's just a very interesting space of creatives that, are multi-hyphenated.
Yeah. And do a beautiful job at it. That's why we
Oh,
love this
for
area.
sure.
One of the reasons why we started this, like to really give voices more of a platform here. Very deserving, especially yourself.
I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Before I let you go, I always give my associate producer over here, said a chance to ask a question.
That's that.
You worked on projects ranging from branding content to deeply historical documentaries like 38 at the Garden and Yale and Slavery Research Project. How do you balance your artistic instincts with the responsibility of representing real people and historical truth?
Truth first. Truth is always first. So we start with truth, and then we lean into artistic integrity after that. So let's start with 30 at the Garden, right? We're starting with his story. Whatever we do needs to add to his story or create more space for folks to enjoy that story. And then we can do the creative aspect of those things, right? But I can't say, yo, let's shoot this on a purple backdrop because I like it. It doesn't fit the story. It doesn't fit anything at that point, right? So we start with truth. We start with the project. I think I'm on this Yale kick for truth, but we start with the project first, what serves the project, and then we go from there. With Yale, we started with truth. And then what creative things can we do to elevate that truth in the eyes of the people who are watching this, right? So, truth first, artists second.
How has working as a DP influenced your creative instincts as a director? And when you think about long-term goals, do you see yourself prioritizing one over the other, and why?
I think what I love about being a DP is I get to work with so many directors that have way more experience than I do. Way more experience than I do. So like folks that I would want to email and be like, "Hey, can I get some pointers?" are the folks that I get to work with. So like I get to sit there and be at the table with folks that I would call and be like, "Hey, can you mentor me?" So I get a free mentorship and I get a job and I get a front row seat, right? Because I'm learning every time I go on set, right? I'm learning when I get to work with different directors, to be a better DP, but then to be a better director, right? That Yale project, when I got someone to interview, I'd worked with this director on this Netflix project, and she had an interviewer, and I was like, that's interesting. Because she was able to just sit, she was floating around the room with like headphones on, just like asking probing questions and getting exactly what she needed. And I was like, that's interesting. I didn't even know you could do that.
So you're saying she, in that example or that situation, she has an interviewer, possibly sitting in the chair, and the eye.
No, interviewer was like on Zoom or something.
And then she's kind of walking around, like listening, and then like something might come to her mind and might just pop in a question.
She's like, obviously, she's not like strolling around the set because like noise and stuff. But she had the freedom to think.
Yeah.
When you're interviewing somebody, it's hard to just sit down there and take notes because you're like, oh, I gotta keep this focus here.
Yeah.
She was able to sit down, take notes, think about it, ponder. Oh, this could be good. Write this down. Ask this question. So there was a lot of flexibility that I had never seen before because I didn't even know you could do that, right? And then when you think of folks like Frank and Christine, who are very story driven, I would always mix story and image initially, right? And they were teaching me to just do this.
Story one, image other.
Right. And I was always doing this.
Yeah.
So I get free lessons by great artists just because I can do my job in a way that they like. And I think I would, for the future, I would lean towards probably DPing. And I might sprinkle, no, DPing. I like lighting, so maybe I would like gaff something, but probably DPing. And then producing my own projects. But DPing would be the main thing.
I love it.
Yeah, because I like to learn. And like, I can learn from other DPs too, but it's more likely that I would learn more DPing than I would directing. Because directors are more in sort of a vacuum. Whereas like DPs, we're working on a bunch of different directors' projects. So I get to learn from you today, him tomorrow, and him next week. Whereas like a director might be on one project during that whole time.
So I have a piggyback off of that. Final one.
Yeah.
Promise. Sorry. So if you could teach one thing about visual storytelling to emerging cinematographers and photographers, what would it be and why?
So if I were to teach a young cinematographer about visual storytelling, I would first tell them that they have to learn to just live life. I think living life and seeing how things happen in real life allows you to create those things artificially on the screen. There's so many little nuances that you're going to notice as you're living life that you wouldn't notice if you're only solely trying to create it. If you're in a bar scene and you've never been to a bar, it's going to be kind of difficult to recreate that in a way that feels surreal and to feel real yourself. The stories that always resonate with people are high school stories, middle school stories, stories that happen with some sort of school aspect. Why? Because they're widely understood by the masses because most of us have gone through school in some way, shape, or form. So we know how the lights hit. We know the bathrooms. We know the tables and the seats, and it automatically creates a baseline because we've lived that portion of life. So if you want to be a better storyteller, just imagine or just see life. See life. It doesn't have to be this like grandiose thing where you're like, all right, they're eating a sandwich. How's that lit? You know, it's just like, okay, this is nice, right? Like I'm looking at these blinds. See how the light's hitting those blinds, right? When I go to light something like this, I might say, oh, let's make sure we put something in front of this light to break it up. So when it comes through the window, it doesn't feel artificial, right? If we want to mimic life, we need to be able to live it properly. And then the second thing is like I do, you know, most of the things. It's working hard, but working hard in a way that you're systematically doing your job. So you're saying for this, you know, hour a day, I'm going to have this deliberate practice of learning something, right? And I think taking that idea of deliberate practice, I think is very important.
Yeah. Well, again, Othello, I appreciate it, man. This means a lot.
For sure.
Excited to join us on here. I'm glad we got the chance to talk to you, hear a little bit more about your background and the projects and the stories behind those projects.
For sure.
Super excited for what comes from this for you, and not just this conversation, but just all the work that you have put in. I know there's projects that you can't even talk about, so I'm excited to see what the next stage for your projects and the work that you're doing. Yep. Your own projects, and also as you show up in the roles, those DP roles, what those are.
Appreciate that.
Appreciate you, man.
Of course.